In the last unit, we learned about the staff, the musical alphabet, clef signs, and intervals. In these first units, you'll learn some really important terms that'll be used throughout this entire course. In this unit, we're going to talk about natural notes, what sharps and flats are, and we're going to learn some terms like enharmonic, tonic, naturally occurring half steps, and what a scale is. We're also going to learn about scale formulas, and we'll learn to build a major scale using its specific interval formula. And we're also going to learn to build a major pentatonic scale. So let's get started. Think about the white keys on the piano or the notes on the low E string of your guitar, the sixth string. The white keys are called natural notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Again, the musical alphabet as we discussed before. The distance between all natural notes is a whole step except for half steps between B and C and E and F. These are called naturally occurring half steps. It's really important to remember naturally occurring half steps and where they occur. And now think about the sixth string on the guitar. There's the low E strings, open E, and then one fret to F. That's a naturally occurring half step. Then two frets or a whole step from F to G, two frets or a whole step from G to A, two frets or a whole step from A to B, one fret or a half step from B to C, a naturally occurring half step, and two frets or a whole step from C to D, and to finish, two frets or a whole step from D to E. So again, the naturally occurring half steps are between B and C and E and F. Next, let's talk about some important symbols, sharp signs and flat signs. A sharp sign placed in front of a note head raises the pitch by a half step or the equivalent of one fret on your guitar. A flat sign placed in front of a note head lowers the pitch by a half step or the equivalent of one fret on your guitar. There are things called double sharps and double flats. Double sharps raise a pitch by two half steps, which is a whole step, and double flats lower a pitch by two half steps or a whole step. We'll talk about that a lot more much later. So a natural note can be raised a half step by applying a sharp, and a natural note can be lowered a half step by applying a flat. It's important to know that we will be using sharps and flats to build scales and chords. Before we start building scales, we need to define a few terms. The first term we're going to define is enharmonic, or you can say enharmonic equivalent. What that really means is that a note might have two different names. For example, on the guitar, you play the F on the sixth string, first fret, and the note a half step or one fret above that is F sharp. A half step above that is G. But what is a half step below G? We just said it's an F sharp, but it's also a G flat. So you would say that F sharp and G flat are enharmonic equivalents, or enharmonic. One fret above G is G sharp, but it's also A flat, and one half step or fret above B is C, but it's also B sharp. And one half step or fret below C is B, but it's also C flat, and so on and so forth. So the term enharmonic equivalent is applied to a note that might have two names. The term enharmonic will become important to us when we start building certain scales and chords because we'll have to spell them correctly. Spell meaning what letters and notes are involved in naming a scale or a chord. Our next term to define is tonic. The tonic is the fundamental note of a key. It is the key the song is in. If the song is in the key of C, the tonic is C. It is the single pitch around which all the other pitches and the chords of a song revolve. The next term we'll talk about is naturally occurring half steps. Naturally occurring half steps refer to what we talked about earlier with the white keys on the piano or the notes on the sixth string of the guitar. Naturally occurring half steps are between B and C and E and F. Knowing this is critical in building all scales and chords moving forward. Make sure you always remember where the naturally occurring half steps are. Our next term is scale. A scale is a group of notes assembled above or below a tonic in stepwise fashion. Scales are named by the note where they start. That's the tonic. And for now, we'll look at them as ascending in stepwise fashion from the tonic. Each note in a scale is called a step or scale degree. Those two terms are synonymous. Scale degrees are given a number based on the relationship to the tonic. The tonic is 1, the note above that is 2, the note above that is 3, and so on and so forth. There are many scales. Some have more or fewer notes than the 7 letters of the musical alphabet. The major scale is often used as a reference to which all other scales are compared. For that reason, we'll learn to construct a major scale and then learn how to build the others over time. All scales have formulas. More specifically, interval formulas, meaning there's a specific distance between the tonic, that's the first scale degree, and the second scale degree, between the second scale degree and the third scale degree, and so on to the octave. Each scale has its own specific formula. All major scales share the same interval formula, and here's what that formula is. The distance from the first scale degree, that's the tonic, to the second scale degree is a whole step. From the second scale degree to the third scale degree is a whole step. From the third scale degree to the fourth scale degree is a half step. From the fourth scale degree to the fifth scale degree is a whole step. From the fifth scale degree to the sixth scale degree is a whole step. From the sixth scale degree to the seventh scale degree is also a whole step. And from the seventh scale degree to the octave, that's the eighth scale degree, it's a half step. You could summarize and simplify this by saying the major scale is made up of all whole steps except for half steps between the third and the fourth scale degrees and the seventh and eighth scale degrees. And remember, the eighth scale degree is a repeat of the tonic, or we can call it the octave. So remember this interval formula for the major scale. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Commit that to memory. You'll notice that the major scale has 7 tones, or the 7 letters of the musical alphabet. There are also 5-note scales called pentatonic scale, penta meaning 5. And the major pentatonic scale can most easily be built by subtracting 2 notes from the major scale. It's kind of the best way to think about it. The 2 scale degrees we remove from the major scale to make the major pentatonic scale are the 4th and the 7th. You'll also notice that removes the half steps from the major scale. Now you would think that numbering the scale degrees would change, and you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the octave would therefore be 6. But we number the notes of the major pentatonic scale as if they are part of the major scale. So we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8. Why is the major pentatonic scale so important? Well, let's reverse engineer this. Now, what we just did was take the major scale and remove the 4th and the 7th scale degrees to create the major pentatonic scale. But what if we started with the major pentatonic scale and thought of it as sort of a shell made up of 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and we say we can add 4 and 7 to the major pentatonic scale to create the major scale? Well, there happen to be other major sounding scales that we can build with this major pentatonic shell. We can build other scales like the Mixolydian mode or the Lydian mode by taking the same major pentatonic shell and adding in the kind of 4th and the kind of 7th to define those scales. We'll talk about those in a later unit. But if we have command of the major pentatonic shells, we can build a massive amount of information on the guitar neck. Now, we covered a lot of information in this unit. It's all really critical foundational information. So what should you know from this unit? Know what sharps and flats are and how they affect notes. Know what enharmonic equivalent means. Know that the tonic is the note around which all notes and chords of a song revolve. Know what naturally occurring half steps are and where they are, between B and C and E and F. Know that a scale is a group of notes arranged in stepwise fashion above a tonic. Know that steps are, or scale degrees, are the notes of the scale, and understand that all scales have an interval formula. Know that the major scale interval formula is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Know the major pentatonic scale formula, and that it can be derived from the major scale by removing the 4th and the 7th scale degrees. Remember the importance of pentatonic shells, especially for the guitar player, because we will be using them to build all of our major sounding scales on the neck. Do your homework, and we'll see you in the next unit. If you find this video helpful, please be sure to click on the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our new videos. You can also click the link in the description below to check out the full Fretboard Biology course when you are ready for a more intensive training program. We'll see you in the next video.